The Geekorama podcast is brought to you by superherofiction.com, the one-stop shop for novels featuring the superpowered heroes we all love. Your hosts are
Trish Heinrich, author of the Vigilante Superhero Universe.
And I'm Jeremy Flagg, author of the Children of Notre Dame universe.
Hi, Jeremy.
How's it going?
It's not going great, actually. I'm sick. I'm so sick.
So
I don't...
you digitally caught what I had in January.
Somehow, yes. Honestly, I working from home and being the only family member that's sick really sucks. Really. And then my youngest got our spike to fever this morning. So that was fun. And then the phone call from the school saying she has to be 72 hours symptom free instead of just 24. So
Vacation.
Oh my God. She's so hyper. It's
You know what's not hyper? My
What?
dead plants.
Oh my God, did you kill your plants?
It's a cactus. It's been dead for a while.
Oh my God, you killed a cactus.
This is why
That's
I
all
can't
right.
have kids.
I killed an aloe vera plant once after I had kids. So
At least you can blame the kids for that one.
no, not really. Well, sleep deprivation, I guess. I could probably blame them. I apologize to the listeners and viewers ahead of time because I am going to be coughing, and you're going to hear the tinkle tinkle of my ice in my cup as I try to stay hydrated. So, yay! How are you, Jeremy?
I'm actually doing fairly well so far. Everything's going good over here. I'm pretty certain that having whatever I had for a month in January has basically made me immune to all known diseases, and working with high school students, we're probably going to have to test out that theory.
You now have your superpower.
Yeah, it's not flashy. It just...
But you will survive the coming apocalypse. Think of it that way.
I can't. I don't have enough toilet paper. I probably only have enough for 4 to 5 months, and how will I ever survive?
One square at a time. One square at a time.
As guests come over, you get your allotted share.
Oh my God. I'm punchy on Mucinex, man. This stuff's awesome.
So, the moral of the story is everyone do pharmaceuticals.
Yay! Over-the-counter drugs.
Okay,
Okay.
so why don't we hop right in and you can share some pop culture history.
Yes. So we actually have some really good ones. So this month in 1818, Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus by 21-year-old Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley was published. It is recognized as the world's first science fiction novel.
I've always found this one to be weird whenever I hear someone say, there's no women in science fiction.
Yeah.
We could just go back to the beginning. I mean...
Yeah, because a woman invented your genre. Thank you very much.
Not hard to find if you try looking.
Yeah, although for decades while she was alive and then posthumously, people said that it was actually her husband, Shelley, who wrote the book and because he was dead, I believe he was dead by the time she actually published it, people accused her of stealing one of his last works.
How dare she?
I know. How dare she have her own imagination?
I know.
Yeah. So in 1973, this month, Spider-Man number 121 kills off Gwen Stacy. Now, this was incredibly shocking. Previously, it was unthinkable to kill off an important character like this. And generally speaking, a superhero didn't fail to this degree unless it was part of their origin story. So killing off Gwen Stacy was a deal. Now it's like, oh, they killed a guy's girlfriend. Okay.
And did you see how they retconned that later on?
No, I know they did, but I don't know how they did it.
So it's almost how it happens in the movie, in the amazing the second set of movies, where he shoots the web down and it grabs her, but she still hit her head on the...
And she still died, yeah.
And she still dies. Well, it got retconned so that the web grabs her, and that is what kills her.
The web?
So it
Holy crap.
basically I I've only seen the page that it's on. It basically breaks her back,
Holy
snaps her in
crap.
two.
That's
So
terrible.
so if you didn't think Spider-Man had enough guilt, they go back and reveal that that's what happened, just to amp it up to the nth degree.
Because why not? Oh
Um,
my God.
so poor Peter Parker.
Yeah. That's just unnecessary. And finally, in 2012, in February, Captain Marvel #1 by Kelly Sue DeConnick premiered. The relaunch of Captain Marvel stands out as being important, most of all because the character of Carol Danvers was notoriously a character that was shelved, squandered, and underutilized for decades. And so Kelly Sue DeConnick came in and just was like, none of that. She's now Captain.
And if you want to see just how amazing that is, in 2012 the comic comes out and she skyrockets in fame to be the first Marvel standalone female superhero. And it's only a handful of years later. So, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
that's a pretty big jump in uh, your legacy within Marvel.
Yeah. No, and it was great the way they did it. I love those first few issues. They're some of the very few comics that I personally own. So that is our pop culture history for this week.
That is wow. It woman makes sci-fi,
Hmm.
man kills woman, woman comes back and dominates Marvel Cinematic Universe. Okay, I can
Yeah,
work with that.
it works. Yeah, it's full circle.
Okay, so what do you have for a geek out this week?
I have a wonderful book called The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics.
That's just a good title.
It's such a good title. It's written by Olivia Waite. It's a period romance. It has two lesbian protagonists, and it's a romance. So it's an older woman, younger woman romantic story. It's got beautiful layers. The characters are just incredible. The older woman has been widowed, but you find out through the course of the book that her husband was an abusive bastard. So she's very gun shy. She's closed herself off for a long, long time. And here comes this brilliant young woman who wants to continue in astronomy and mathematics. And of course, in Regency era England, that's, it's a man's thing. And, you know, women, we have to debate whether or not women can really benefit from working within mathematics and astronomy and blah, blah, blah. And so the younger woman, whose name is Lucy, ends up staying with the older woman, whose name is Catherine, and they just have this great rapport. The younger woman really draws out, like Lucy draws out Catherine, and kind of starts to heal like her wounds. She starts to open herself up again, and you find out Lucy is, coming from a broken heart. The woman that she's loved for 5 years decided to marry somebody, even though Lucy was like, I want to be with you as much as we can, and so there's all these broken hearts and all these wounds going on, but underneath all that also you introduce to these really brilliant women. So Catherine is brilliant in terms of like curiosity and desire to learn about botany and art and how to combine the two. And then you meet all these other women that they follow their scientific husbands all over the world. And in their own right, they have these really brilliant minds. They've dictated their husband's work. They've contributed to their husband's work, but they're not allowed to have that as part of their identity, even though they're incredibly intelligent. So underneath this beautiful love story is this commentary on women in science and how women were treated. And I mean, I think the author is pointing also towards how women are still treated in scientific fields.
So how thick is the book? Like how many pages do you think?
It's an ebook, so I'm not really sure. I don't think it's that big. Honestly, it's a romance. It's a Regency romance, so it's not going to be super long. But I like to sometimes compare books to food. And this is the literary equivalent of a rich piece of chocolate cake and a very good red wine. So
Oh,
you don't want to blow, like I can blow through a romance novel like nobody's business. But this one, I found no, I really want to take my time with this because I want to savor the words the author used, the characters that I'm meeting. It's really good.
I really do envy romance authors and the fact that they have much smaller books. I mean, like half the size of the book I write, and at the same time, they can pack in just as much character, which always makes me think I should probably tighten my books up and ditch 20,000 words.
I've been feeling the same way, yeah.
Um, and even more so now that I have finished my first romance smut novel. Um,
Woohoo!
Romance writers, you have my respect so much.
Well, and there's some beautiful steamy scenes that are not, I have to say, they're not smutty at all. Like you know exactly
Really?
what's going on. Yeah, but the thing that's really cool with this author, there's some steamy love scenes. Like the first time these two characters are together, it's like, whoa. But she doesn't use, like, you know how romance authors they have names for genitalia and stuff like
Oh
that?
my god.
She doesn't even name it, but you know exactly what's going on. The only thing that she references specifically are nipples. That's it. But like there's a long time, like seriously, but there's a long time spent on just touching. Like touching, you are just dying right now. Nipples. Let
Of
me say it
all
again.
the things you can,
Nipples.
and I'm trying to think, is this like some sort of scientific and mathematical astronomy related thing? Like in the
I don't
astronomy
know.
community, are nipples like a thing?
They are very spectacular. I've been told like people really love nipples, but no, it's
I feel like
I
there needs to be a
just
math equation to prove this.
some kind of math. Somebody find one for us. Um, no, I just found it really interesting that I felt like, excuse me, that the scene was steamy without being graphic. There
Okay.
was just this beautiful balance, and a lot of time is taken on just touching, like going from someone's elbow up their arm to their neck and their cheek, and you're just like, oh, like I got chills. I was like, wow, that's beautiful language.
Okay.
It's really well done.
So it's trying to titillate.
Yes.
This book is foreplay, basically.
Yeah, there's a lot of foreplay in a look. Like there's a couple looks that I was like, holy shit, that's wow. And then it was just two sentences about how they were looking at each other, and I was like, woo.
Oh, just
So yes,
across the room. Woo.
I know, woo. So yes, The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics by Olivia Waite. You will not be disappointed. It's so good.
Mine doesn't have nearly as much heat and or steam.
Well, I'm really curious about yours because usually we tell each other before now, but I haven't heard about yours.
So I actually procrastinated because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I'm in a TV and movie lull at the moment.
Hmm.
I've been watching Altered Carbon, and I really loved the first season. And I'm about 4 episodes into the second season, and I deleted it.
Oh, really?
I don't care. And it's not that it's bad. It's just I wanted the world, and we're very character centric. So that's kind of what I was hoping to do, but so I actually my big thing is the new trailer for New Mutants came out last week, um, and I am stoked for this movie. And anyone who says otherwise is a fool.
You have
Calling you all
spoken.
out. So, have you rewatched the first X-Men movie by chance?
No,
It's bad.
I know.
I am such an X-Men fan. I saw it 6 times in the theater. I wanted
Oh
to make it
my
a blockbuster.
God.
And I rewatched it, and oh my god, it is so bad.
It's really bad.
Um, so this, and don't get me wrong, there are moments in each X-Men movie that I really liked, but as a whole movie, none of them. Days of Future Past, I like the future parts, the past part, meh. Um, I
I liked
wanted
that one more than others. I think I like it more than most people do, but I'm not sure why exactly.
just why is Mystique the center of the X-Men universe? I don't get
Ugh,
it.
I know.
Um, because she's pretty, she's naked, and that's about it.
That's about it, yeah.
So the New Mutants trailer comes out, and what's really big about this is it's a genre superhero film, and we haven't seen a whole lot of those. Um, Granted, I do believe it. I want to say it's a PG-13 rating. Don't quote me on that.
Mm.
Um, but the last horror movie superhero related was uh,
Would it be Blade?
no, it was bright, bright place, bright Earth. It was basically Superman goes crazy and kills everyone.
Oh, yeah. It
Um,
wasn't out for very long.
no, it wasn't, and it had a really low budget, and they spent their money wisely, and it definitely had some creepy moments to it. And the New Mutants, everyone wants to say that they're just another X Men, but they were originally a genre comic, and there were definitely horror elements. And later on, when characters like Legion come in, the comic becomes so chaotic and difficult to follow because it's just artistically driven. And I mean, the art gets weird. So
That
it
makes
def-
sense for Legion.
oh yeah, and you definitely got a feel of the multiple personalities that were happening. And so this is actually going horror, and we finally see the villain of the story this time, and it's not the villain I want, but there's enough creepy factor right now that I'm still intrigued.
So we have talked about this before, and I don't
Yes,
remember who the villain that you wanted was. Who was it that you wanted?
I wanted oh, there's some bizarre ones, but I think the and it would have been hokey. I think would have been uh, mother something.
A villain named Mother anything. That's just creepy.
And so basically she she takes care of orphans, but kind of in that twisted, creepy way.
Yeah.
And
Like the Apocalypse Mother Granny
yes,
Goodness. Like Granny Goodness, yeah.
and so there's that, but they have these masks that are Hellfire Club ish, and actually the Hellfire Club was their number one villain for the longest time.
Mm.
So, but right now it looks like the villain's going to be Demon Bear, which is a callback to Danny Moonstar's Native American roots. So that I'm kind of interested in,
Hmm.
and we have some great female characters that have gotten the limelight once in a while, but it's never stayed there. Between Danny Moonstar, Ilyana Rasputin, um, Rain Sinclair. So
I
I'm
love
looking.
those names. Those
Oh yeah,
names are fantastic.
uh, yeah. Chris Claremont just knew how to go to town.
Yeah, I did.
Um, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm a little weirded out by a potential PG-13 rating, but it can't be worse than the last X-Men movie.
I know, we do not speak of that travesty. We don't speak of it.
It's
It didn't happen. It's like the last season of Warehouse 13. It didn't happen. I refuse to watch it. Although I have seen the last X-Men movie, but I have not seen the last season of Warehouse 13 all the way through because I refuse. It never happened.
okay. So that actually gives us to the perfect segue.
It
Um,
does. Unplanned, by the way. I did not intend that.
so we've been thinking about some of the things that we just want to talk about. We've got topics planned all over the place, but considering that March is Women's History Month, we wanted to talk about some of the women in our lives, the fictional women. So
Yes.
we did you tell me the topic this morning?
Yes.
Yeah. So weirdly enough, I care enough about this topic. I did research already.
Oh my God,
Um,
you're awesome.
so we are looking at some of our favorite women in sci-fi, fantasy TV shows
Oh,
specifically.
we okay. So one of mine doesn't fall under that, unfortunately.
It still works. Actually,
Okay.
I saw which one you're talking about, and I think it still works.
Okay,
It's
okay.
a fantasy mindset.
A couple
Um,
of them are actually, yeah. No, that's a good
so
point.
we're only going to go over our top couple, but if you want to see the full our top 10 lists, which you're going to be a little bit shocked about because we intentionally took out some of the big players.
Yeah. We didn't
And
we specifically said we weren't going to go for the obvious choices. So
no
there's no
Buffy.
buff yeah, no Buffy, no women from Star Trek, which we could have really filled up our lists with the
Yeah.
women from Star Trek, honestly. Um none of the obvious choices at all.
And weirdly enough, Trish and I don't agree on one of them. So if you want to check it out, go check out the show notes on the Superhero Fiction website, and you can see our full top 10 list. So I'm going to let you start because you're excited about this.
I'm super excited about this. So, um I posted this on Instagram that I've been rewatching some older television shows that I just love. And there's two from sci-fi, early sci-fi days, Eureka and Warehouse 13. And I love rewatching these shows, but it's also very painful because sci-fi ended these shows in not a kind way to the
Mm-mm.
fans. In Eureka's case, they
Oh,
told the showrunners, you have 6 episodes to wrap everything up, and then they yanked the carpet out from underneath them and said, actually, you have 1 episode. They gave them 1 episode to wrap up all these incredible storylines, and they did it. To their credit, they did it pretty well in 1 episode.
my problem with the Eureka ending was there's a whole time travel component.
Yeah.
I watched Eureka every night that it came out. Like there was no
Oh, I
waiting.
love that show.
But there was a time travel component, and there's a huge unfulfilled question that happens during this,
Yeah.
and poof, gone.
They can't. They couldn't do everything. So they just kind of had to cobble some stuff together.
I was so angry.
Yeah, they were going to take 6 seasons. Well, okay, they were going to take 6 episodes rather and tie up all of those loose ends. And and then with Warehouse 13, I think I'm more angry about this one actually. So Warehouse 13 in Sci-Fi's Infinite Wisdom, they fire the showrunners that have been running the show the whole time right before the last season. They're like, "You're out." They bring in new showrunners that basically looked at the show and was like, we're going to do whatever the hell we want.
And they did.
And they did. And it was a travesty. It was a train wreck. I watched 3 episodes of that season and I was like, I'm out.
It
Like, these are not my people anymore.
it was almost like they went and watched earlier episodes, and they're like, let's just use that.
Yeah. It was so bad. And
So,
so,
but what about the women in it?
yes, so I was getting to that. Sorry. So the first one I want to talk about is Micah Baring. And Micah is there from the very beginning of the pilot, Warehouse 13. She is Pete's partner. What I love about Micah. So Micah, until the last season, no surprise, she's never really hypersexualized.
Mm-mm.
There are a couple of episodes where she does wear kind of a short dress, or there's one of my favorite ones where it's basically they dress her up like a superhero. She's in this skin tight cat suit with like I don't even know what, but it was just awesome. But that was rare. She's dressed in slacks, a jacket, a button up, or just regular clothes that a woman would wear.
Yeah, I
But until Claudia comes around, the most intelligent woman in
so
the room.
I liked her because she was such a great every woman, and you could
Yeah,
easily, with a gym membership, you could be her. With a little practice on the gun range, you could be her. With a little bit of deductive reasoning, you could be
yeah,
her.
yeah. Well, and she was thin, but the thing about her is like if you look at her bone structure, she's a small boned, really tall woman. So I mean it kind of fit. In the right before the last season, so like the second to last season towards the end, she did drop some weight, which was just like kind of
Hmm.
weird. Her cheeks started to get a little sunk in, so it was kind of like maybe the network was telling her she needed to lose a few, which is just
She looked
insane.
great.
But Micah, she did. Micah was book smart. She'd read everything. And she was a nerd when it came to history, mythology, weaponry. I mean, she loved all that stuff. She was an incredibly good agent. Everybody said that. And nobody said for a woman. That was never a
And I liked it.
qualifier with Micah.
Pete was the good-looking guy who was a little bit of a bonehead who thought he could just by his
Yeah,
charm save the day every time. And realistically, it was always her coming to save the day.
yeah. And he always
Yes.
respected her. Well, after the first couple episodes, they had to get used to each other. They were very like they were at loggerheads at the beginning, which made sense. But once they got over that, that's the other thing that I loved that they wrecked the last season. There was this beautiful brother sister dynamic, which you don't
Mm-hmm.
see enough of in these partner type shows. There's always like they always try to shoehorn a romantic element into it. And for most of the show, there was this beautiful brother sister relationship. And in fact, there's one episode where they did end up in bed together because an artifact made them drunk and made them forget what happened. And they wake up naked next to each other. And they're like, oh my God, what did we do? And Micah's horrified. And Pete's like, look, we're friends. We're not the first platonic friends to end up like this. It's fine. And then they end up finding out, no, they actually didn't have sex, but they set it up like this so that they would backtrack their steps and figure out what happened. So everything was fine. So they never had that, but they were completely devoted to each other as friends. And Pete always respected Micah down the line. She was his partner. If Micah said it,
And
then
I
he
liked
believed
when
it.
his
And I
relationship came
loved it.
in, when he started having external relationships, it wasn't woman versus woman.
No, not at all. And in fact,
Yeah.
Micah was happy for him.
So,
So yeah. And I loved Micah's relationship with Helena Wells or H.G. Wells, which I'm now that's my headcanon. H.G. Wells was a woman. I'm just gonna say it. Um, I loved that chemistry. I loved the older woman kind of mentoring the younger woman relationship that she had with Claudia, which you don't see enough of
I
in
wanted
shows.
Micah and Helena to be a thing, and I feel that
Everybody did. Everybody.
there was some
Oh
unsaid
my
chemistry, or
God.
no, it was very sad. Like we knew.
It was very, yeah, no, 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 no. No, that everybody wanted those two together, and their chemistry
Oh
was off
yeah,
the charts. It was probably the most sparks of anybody on that show. It was
and
so
I
good.
loved Helena's entire existence as being she was very kind of Wonder Woman, as in the fact that she had a grudge against a man because she was believed to be a man, and
Hmm.
so she has some issues that she has to work out over that, and it plays out beautifully throughout
Yeah,
the season.
it does. And it's Micah not being the meek woman that really helps Helena, but it's Micah
Yeah,
being Micah, being strong, even doubting her, that helps Helena kind of come to grips with who she is and who she wants to be. I loved that relationship. So Micah Baring is one of my top 10 favorite women from a television show, and it's
I
Warehouse
think
13.
I
My
would
second,
watch if they renewed it with just the three of them. It
I would too. I
um
really would.
get rid of everybody else and just them, and let
I do love
well, I
Artie.
love Artie,
I love
but
Artie.
I felt his relationship with the younger girl, Claudia. I
Claudia.
liked it, but it kept coming back to that. It was
Mm,
father, daughter, father, daughter, father, daughter. And
it was.
Claudia, I felt, grew up, and the showrunners were like, we're going to do another father daughter storyline.
They didn't know. They set up this great thing for Claudia, this great destiny, and then from what I hear, they did end up doing it in the final season, but most fans were like,
It,
ugh,
you were like, yay, you half assed it. Thanks.
bummer. Yeah, the whole
Canceled.
thing. So that's my number one. I mean, sort of. I can't really specifically be like, oh yeah, because it'll change tomorrow. But my second one that I love is Allison Blake from Eureka. And so one of the reasons I love Eureka in particular is the the racial and gender representation in that show is really well done. And Allison Blake is a woman of color. In real life, she is Black and Native
Oh,
American.
huh.
Yeah. So Allison Blake is, again, one of the most intelligent women in the room, bar none, hands down. And the show in Eureka, again, it's never a, hey, you're pretty smart for a girl. There's none of that. There is an equal acceptance of intelligence, whether male, female, black, white,
And the
it
best part
doesn't
in
matter.
Eureka is she's the smartest person in the room of a room full of smart people.
Oh yeah, total
So,
geniuses. She as a woman and also a mother of a
mhm.
disabled child, which we see that relationship. They don't try to hide it. It's
And
beautifully
it
done.
motivates her in some
Um,
of it, and I really loved those episodes.
it does. I did too. She runs Global Dynamics, which is the basically the scientific hub of the town of Eureka. At one point, she's the medical director of Eureka. Um, she helps solve all these different issues, like these weird, things that happen in the town. She's a mother, like I said. She's a friend. She's an attractive woman. She's not the typical, like the stereotypical nerdy scientific woman with the Coke bottle glasses. She's a hot woman.
Hot and
Um,
smart? You mean that can happen?
that can happen. Oh my God. Um, I also just love how she, although Sheriff Carter is not the smartest person in the room, but he tries his best, and I do love how she believes him. I mean, in the sense of like when she gets to know him, she ends up being like, no, he's onto something here. Like she never looks down on somebody because their intelligence might be less than hers, which I
I
really
hadn't thought
love
about it
that.
before, but Micah and Allison to Carter and Pete. S- Smart
Oh my God, you're
women
right.
with kind of boneheaded
Boneheaded
guys.
guys. Although I think Carter's a little
Yeah,
smarter than Pete,
well, and he has a
honestly.
certain intuition and not he's a little more serious. Pete was a little more
Yes.
goofy.
Pete was totally goofy, and I loved that about Pete. Pete that worked with
Yes.
Pete and Micah, honestly. Um, and yeah. So anyway, and you could talk about any of the characters in Eureka. Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. The mechanic, Carter's
Oh
best
yeah.
friend.
I'll never remember it.
Oh my God,
My favorite
Henry.
character in all of Eureka was the house.
Oh my God, the house. Yes, the house, voiced by a guy who was putting on a feminine
Really?
voice. Fargo.
Oh, I and that actually works into the plot. I completely forgot that.
It does. Yeah, they worked it into the plot. And they kept it. It was a placeholder. When he first gets the house, it's a placeholder. And they never replaced it.
Oh, that is too funny. And both of them are sci-fi shows,
So
like
those are the
from the
two.
Sci-Fi Channel.
They are. And you can, yeah, and you can stream Eureka through Amazon Prime. Warehouse 13 is a little more difficult to find, but you can get the DVDs through
I find that
Amazon.
weird. I wonder what association that's keeping that off streaming.
I don't know, but I mean, it's been a very long time since Warehouse 13 was streaming.
So I also noticed that your top two are from a lot more light-hearted shows than mine.
Yeah, but I get
Yeah,
darker.
I noticed your
Like if
list
you look
starts
at
light
my
and
other
works
ones,
its way to dark, and then it comes back to a happy place.
it does. It's a full
Mine goes
circle
from
list.
dark to outlandish to borderline gruesome.
Good Lord. Oh yeah. I didn't see the bottom two at
Yeah,
first. Oh my God.
I
Okay.
have some fun ones. You're gonna want to go check this out.
Go you. Okay, so now I
Okay,
want to hear about
so
yours.
we're gonna be talking about this again sooner or later, anyways. But I had to pick my absolute favorite female, and this is my favorite. The movies. Thankfully, we took movies out of the mix. That was gonna be too difficult.
That would have been
Um,
too hard, yeah.
but Westworld and it is going to be Maeve Millay, who is played by Thandie Newton. Um, so the whole concept of Westworld is it is a fantasy land, and people can come
Mhm.
here to live out whatever fantasy they want. And all the people that they're interacting with are robots that are programmed through various artificial intelligence and very high tech. And I wanted to hate this show so much. I hate westerns with a passion. It is on my genre list. It is at the bottom. I would read anything before that. Um, I would read
Wow.
cookbooks for amusement before I would read that. And
Oh my
so
God.
there's a good chunk of it that is in Westworld, which is their Western uh, like amusement park. But on the back end of it, it's very high tech. Like they're making androids and they're testing out algorithms, and
Mm.
it's very sciency, and it definitely gets your science fiction fix, and it's in the context of Westworld. So Maeve starts out as a lady of the night, or actually no, she's a madam, and she oversees the saloon and all the prostitutes. Because of course, if you're going to pay millions of dollars to go to a fantasy world, you're gonna have to hook up with all the prostitutes.
Of
And
course.
what makes it so great is early on, Maeve figures out she's in a computer simulation. She becomes aware, and this is an ongoing story for her. And um, her counterpart is a woman named Dolores, who has a great storyline as well. But there's a moment for um, the characters in Westworld get recycled, and Maeve starts having images of when she was a mother, but she's never been a mother. And come to find out, one of her previous programs was she was a mother who gets gunned down with her daughter. And she knows that the android or the robot that plays her daughter is still there. She just
Oh
doesn't know
my
where, and she
God.
doesn't understand it because it's a different life, and she thinks she's dreaming. And so Maeve gets out of Westworld and gets into the real world, and um, she's starting to realize what's happening. And so she basically kills herself so that she can go into the computer area where they fix her, and she can start learning. And then she goes back and she
Oh
kills
my
herself to come back
God.
out.
Oh my God. That's
And so
amazing.
she's playing them, and you don't realize that these techs who believe they're gods that are controlling Westworld are being played by their creation. And ultimately, at the end of the first season, and yes, I'm going to spoil it. Go watch it anyways. It doesn't even matter. Maeve has the option to leave and go into the real world, except she's been programmed to come back. So she can either go into the real world and prove that she's
Huh.
independent, or she can go back and try and save her daughter. And she decides she would rather risk her awareness and go back for her daughter. And it was the most human decision that she could have made. And I just love the fact that we watch this artificial life form become human. And that's a very popular theme in science fiction, but
Hmm.
she plays it so incredibly well that I'm experiencing all her firsts at the same time. I'm just
Oh,
shoveling popcorn in.
wow.
Um, and later she becomes more powerful, I guess is what you'd say. And her story unfolds, and it's almost the gods have taken over the Titans, and now the gods are having to deal with their creation, and there's so many layers
Oh,
happening with it.
wow.
And where it ends after second season, I don't know what's going to happen to her. So, like, all I care about, like, there are some amazing actors and actresses across the board. I love them all, and I want to see what happens to them. But if they all died tomorrow and only her story continued, I would still pay for HBO Go. Yeah. So
Wow.
how's that for an HBO endorsement?
That's incredible. Well, and I've seen the advertisements for the show, and I've had some friends say, "Oh my God, it's so good," but I've never really been. I'm like, nah, because I'm kind of like you. I'm not a really big
It
fan of
the
westerns.
second one takes place in feudal Japan,
Oh my
and
God. Wow.
Maeve's character meets Maeve in feudal Japan, who's not aware yet. So she gets to see her past. Like, it's just, there are so many moments where you have to pause and go, what would I have done? Like, how would I react?
That's a good show that makes you ask those
And
questions.
there's
Oh my
so many
God.
like higher order questions, and she I would pay money to go watch a movie where all we do is look at her facial expressions. Um, she can convey the emotional tone of an episode with just eyes.
She's a very good actress.
I'm stunned every time. Um, and she it's just go watch it. Just go do it. It
Okay.
and you'll see why there's another person in the show that I thought about, but their storylines, I felt she was the stronger of the women in that one, so I tried to not pull doubles.
Okay.
The other one, and this is I have a very specific reason for this one. In Orphan Black, Sarah Manning, the main character, who is played by Tatiana Maslany. I believe she's from Saskatchewan.
She deserves all of the
Yes.
Emmys, I have to say. And she only got nominated, I think, once, which is
And
criminal for the
so
show.
throughout the course of the show, I believe she plays 7 versions of herself. Um, so
Yeah.
we find out in the first episode,
Which are
yes.
all distinct. They're all completely different, and you believe as a viewer. I've only seen the first episode, but you totally believe as a viewer. These are all
So
different people.
the big
It's
question always
incredible.
winds up being, how would you be different if you had grown up in the Midwest? Or what if you. So everything
Mm,
about them is biologically the same. And she bumps into someone who is her. And that's all you. In the first episode, that's really all you know. And you
yeah.
wonder, is it. Is what I don't like at the end of the first episode, you don't even know it's really science fiction, to be honest. Um,
Well, and it's
yeah,
creepy because it's like I think she
uh,
kills herself. Her the
yeah, her
clone
clone
kills
doesn't know any
herself.
way out, and so she winds up. Come to find out, that clone had a really bad past, had really bad depression, and ultimately decides to kill herself. And how would you feel about yourself knowing that there's a potential you out there where you are so bad off that that's your only option? And it asks some weirdly
Mm,
dark questions.
it
And
does. I think that's why I couldn't get through the
and
second
and
season.
so it's 4 seasons. I believe it's 4 seasons long. And the first 3 seasons are pretty strong. The third season, there was a plot I just didn't care about. Really, I just wanted to watch her and the clones hang out, and there's
Yeah,
there's
everybody
a
did.
dance party scene where they're all dancing in the living room, and that made the whole season. Like, and then the
That
last
is
season
awesome.
gets a lot more into the origin and the philosophy of the creators, and it stopped being about her. And that just made me not
Mm,
care as much. It's good, action packed. There's enough
yeah.
science fiction to keep you entertained, but really, all we wanted was more Tatiana being her. So, um, if you like a woman with range and you can see the range in one scene where she's playing 5 of
Oh
herself,
my God.
that is absolutely a show you should check out.
Oh my
Um,
God. Yeah. But also just and I like dark stuff. I think I just wasn't in the right headspace for it at the time. But it's dark and it asks some really like intense, deep questions about identity and
and
self. It was
and when
really
it
well done.
introduces her suburban clone, that's just when I was like, I'm in this to the end, because
Yeah,
I want to
exactly,
see what
exactly.
depths a suburban clone is willing to go to cover up her
Yeah.
identity. and it was amazing. So
Yeah, it was. Never underestimate a suburban
man, and
housewife, man.
she wound up being, I think, my favorite of the whole show.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, it was there was the first season anyway. I was like, oh my God, I can kind of
and
relate, and I'm scared
and her
now. Like
suburban
it was
version, and
just
unfortunately I can't
unreal.
remember the name. Her husband in that, where she wants to be picture perfect. She has a craft room, and there's a scene where
Yes,
uh, she is using crafts as murder weapons. It
I don't remember that. Was
too,
that
I
season
think.
one? Oh my
And you
God.
realize that every suburban housewife is one hot glue project away from killing people.
This is
It,
why I
it
don't do crafts. This is why
I
I don't do
the
it.
Pinterest ladies out there, just saying, we know you're all about to snap. Um,
Or like in Buffy,
yes,
Anya, like they're totally witch. They're totally witches. They're witch. Martha Stewart is a
that.
witch. She's like, please, you can't do that much decoupage without calling on the dark arts, and it's true. It's true. You can't.
So we're going to be revisiting this. We're going to be talking more about some of our favorite women in other genres and mediums. Um, so if you want to see the full top 10 list, and there's some good ones, actually. There was a couple on yours. The one that's not science fiction is the one that I actually was like, can I bend the rule for that one? Because I loved that. Yeah.
Really?
No, no,
The
no.
last one?
Your middle one.
Oh. Well, because my last one isn't science fiction either, but there's like fantasy
You know
aspects
what?
kind of in it.
The sets for that made me think sci-fi. So I'm going to say, yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
you can go check those out on superherofiction.com. And we need a question of the week.
How about we just ask people what some of
Yeah.
their favorite women are from television. And you can go obvious. If Buffy really is your favorite, go for it and tell me why. Or Anya or Willow or
And
whatever. Just,
and
you know.
think big. Like think all of science fiction.
Yeah.
Um there were some in like the 70s I was like, "Oh, good call." So I try to keep mine a little more modern.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't do like I didn't go HBO or Showtime or any of those shows. I mean, I could
I
have,
took
but I
out
didn't. I wanted to
I
do
took
weirder
out
ones.
Buffy. I took out Arya Stark. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know, I get it. I get
I
it.
took out Uhura and Deanna Troy. Those were the ones that I think I would have added, but I was like, no, I feel those are obvious. Oh,
Captain
Seven
Janeway
of
would have been
Nine.
one of mine from Star Wars, Star Trek. Oh my
Oh,
God, yeah,
Dax.
709.
Like literally,
Dax.
how
Oh my
about every
God, I
woman
love Dax
from
so
Star
much.
Trek at this point?
Pretty much, yeah. The Deep Space Nine women don't get enough love, I feel
Dax was one of my
like they
favorites.
were just Dax was amazing for the time and her and the conversation she sparked about gender. Oh my God. Yeah, I could talk
Okay,
forever
so
about
give
her.
us your favorite females in science fiction fantasy TV, and
Yep,
I guess that's the show, and we'll be back next week.
that's the show. Check out our list too. Tell us
I'm
what you
curious to see
think.
if anyone argues with us.
Oh, I think they will with mine because I'm bending the rules a little bit. But yours is an impressive list. Like I'm like, oh man, I didn't even think about that
I
one. Like
only have
I'm
one WB
impressed.
person on the whole thing.
That's
It
impressive.
was a struggle.
I mean, seriously.
All right, so we'll see you next week.
To stay up to date with the Geekorama podcast, you can watch our videos on YouTube or subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a review or hit the thumbs up button. New episodes are released on Thursdays for podcast listeners and YouTube fans.